My earring fell off. Streaming live on Facebook. How
Oh, can you
exciting.
see it?
Yes. There's a
Oh,
little note that says webinar is now streaming.
okay. Awesome. So I see Janice is on.
Hi, Janice.
Oh, I see a little heart.
I
Nice.
see it too.
All right, we'll wait one more minute.
Okay. I see you're recording, so this is great. We'll be able to play it back.
Yes, exactly. We're going to have this recording will be on our website and on our Facebook for people to
Okay.
go back and watch in case they missed it.
Awesome.
All right, and let's get started. So, welcome everybody. My name is Carly Mertz, the host of the Integrative Nurse Coach Gathering webinar. And tonight we are going to celebrate Black History Month by learning to reclaim your joy, stress management, and coaching for Black professionals with our Inca alumni, Darlene Bell. Darlene is a multifaceted nurse, workplace wellness advocate, and stress management coach with over 20 years of experience as an operating room nurse. A proud graduate of Western Connecticut State University's class of 2001, she has built a diverse career spanning roles as a staff nurse, travel nurse, and nurse entrepreneur. She is currently pursuing her master's in management and operate organizational leadership. I'm so sorry, to
That's
further
okay.
impact on wellness in the workplace. As the founder of Belle Vie Integrative Wellness, Darlene is committed to helping healthcare professionals cultivate positive and healthy resilience to rediscover joy in their work by providing resiliency and stress management workshops for nursing staff and new graduate nurses. She is also a passionate nurse writer, sharing insights on wellness, leadership, and personal growth through her weekly blog. With a heart for empowerment, she encourages others to boldly pursue their passions and create a fulfilling life aligned with their purpose. So I would invite everybody to get comfy in your chair, get relaxed, release any tension from your body. Let's take a few slow, deep breaths at your own pace to come together as a community of like-minded nurses. Let us open our minds and give space for new wisdom during this webinar. And just as a little reminder, everybody can put their questions down in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. So welcome, Darlene.
Hi, Carly. Thank you so much. Before I begin, I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to represent nurse coaches and to specifically represent Inca as an alumni of cohort 31. And I shall begin. Is it okay to start?
Yeah, go ahead and share
All
your
right.
screen. Thank
We're just
you.
going to jump right in. I'm going to share my screen. And good, wonderful evening, everyone. As Carly said, my name is Darlene Bell, and I will be discussing Reclaim Your Joy, finding stress management and coaching tips and tools for Black professionals so that we can break free from burnout and step into our power. And so tonight, I'm going to try not to go on for a very long time. And so our purpose will be to empower Black professionals such as you and me and shift the narrative from surviving in the workplace to actually thriving in the workplace. And for me to explain to you what that looks and feels like. And my goal is to provide you some stress management tools for the workplace, how to navigate challenges that we face within the workplace, and how do we enhance our confidence and our overall well-being, most importantly. And so my story, the journey of my professional career, just hearing Carly say class of 2001, it sounds like such a long time ago. It's been over 20 years. Like she mentioned, I graduated from Western Connecticut State University in 2001. And within those 20 plus years of experience, I like to coin myself as a lifelong learner. And so I continued on gathering various certifications, my CNOR, which is a certification in nursing as in the OR, my nurse coach board certification, and I also obtained my license as a licensed esthetician. That is something that I plan to do when I retire. I would love to be able in retirement to just give people facials all day long and help them not only feel good, but to look good too. I am a graduate of Inca Academy, and I came from cohort 31, which was, I want to say 2021, right after COVID. And that is how I ended up going down the journey of nurse coaching was during COVID. I found myself furloughed and coming from I'm a single mom, and so a one income family. And so I was sitting there thinking, like, what exactly am I gonna do? And so I was up one night on Google, a sleepless night, and I found coaching, and I felt that it matched me, it matched the person that I am, whether I'm at work or whether I'm around family or friends, that I always look to encourage people, empower people, help them discover their strengths. And so I felt that that title of nurse coaching was very fitting, and I went for it. And that brought me to entrepreneurship. And I am the owner and operator of Bellevue Integrative Wellness, where I provide workplace wellness in the workplace and teaching people how to find joy at work because we spend so much time at work that we need to be able to be well when we're at work, and we also need to be well outside of work so that we can show up properly. And so, with all that being said, and like I mentioned, being a lifelong learner, that's what led me to go back to school. I am currently obtaining my master's in management and organizational leadership because I would like to understand the workplace, not only from staff nurse perspective, but also from the organizational perspective, so that when I become that change agent within the hospital organizations, that I'll be able to understand fully from both aspects, arming me with the ability to help people on the staff side as well as the leadership side, because at this point, everyone within the hospital organization needs help. And so, in addition to my story and my journey of being a Black person within the workspace, I've been faced with many challenges. And with all professionals, we all face normal workplace challenges. And what do normal workplace challenges look like? It could be micromanagement, excessive work overload, working a lot of hours, so many different variations of what workplace challenges look like. But if you take those challenges and then you add on top of that the Black experience, that actually is an even more critical and can be very difficult experience, which I will lead you down my own personal experience. So when I speak to you tonight, I will be speaking to you as a nurse coach. I will be speaking to you from my personal perspective as a Black woman, as a Black professional in the workspace, and also from my professional experience as a nurse coach and how to navigate and deal with these challenges. And so sometimes people ask, okay, well, why does this matter? What is the big deal about being a Black person in the workspace? And so there are some hidden truths about being Black in the workplace. And like I mentioned, there are normal workplace challenges that we all face. But then there's being Black and walking in, and it's this extra layer that we hold with pride because we are confident and we're very proud. But in addition to that, there's some stress that comes with it. And the stress is the continuous amount of stress can lead to burnout. And that comes from heightened pressure to perform, always feeling as though you need to take the extra steps than the next person, the white person. Why? Because we feel that getting more degrees, getting more certifications is a requirement when in actuality, it actually is a requirement because that is what's going to allow us to have the confidence to feel that we are qualified for a position, whereas a person who is not Black, who is white or of a different race, may be able to qualify for that position just based on their color. There is also some stress that comes with the feeling of having to represent the Black race. Sometimes being the Black professional, as I have personally experienced myself, is being there's many places that I've worked and I've been the only Black nurse or the only Black nurse or the Black person in a room. I work in an operating room and I've been in positions where I've had a white surgeon ask me, "Hey, Darlene, let me ask you, why do Black people," and it's one of those why do Black people kind of questions, and the expectation is that I am supposed to answer in representation for all Black people. And initially, as a new nurse, I would be very timid and not know how to answer. But as time went on and I became more confident, I would gladly say, I don't represent all Black people. And then give them a response in a way that would educate them as opposed to me being defensive. I learned to educate people on how they ask certain questions and to answer them in a way that they became aware of how they were thinking, what their thought processes were, and how they were allowing their processes to lead them to the action of asking me a question such as that. Um, the other stressful thing that occurs that can lead to burnout is the superwoman syndrome, which is, especially with African American women, we tend to want to do everything. And it's because we actually enjoy doing everything. And because we enjoy doing everything, everyone else enjoys us doing everything. And so what happens is we end up with this overload of work, too much work. And it becomes very stressful. People rely on you so much. And because you have this feeling that you need to help people and you're accustomed to helping people, you end up feeling like the superwoman with the cape that's supposed to come in and save everyone. Um, and being helpful and saving people is great, but with everything, there's boundaries. And so that's where boundaries come into play and the importance of establishing them in order to decrease burnout. The other reason why this topic matters is because we face unique challenges in the workplace, such as microaggressions, certain comments or assumptions about us, our culture, and the things that we do, the things that we say, the way that we dress. The lack of representation, as I mentioned before, of being the only and community. There's strength in community. And so oftentimes where you may find that you're in a position where there is some microaggression or implicit bias and you need to vent, there might not be another person who can fully relate to you in that moment to have that discussion to say, hey, this is what's happening to me, and feeling like no one really understands. The other unique challenge is the imposter syndrome, that although African Americans are out there getting their higher education, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, doctorate's degrees, that even with all that, we still walk into certain areas and still feel like, oh my gosh, like, can I actually do this when we know that we can? But because of being around majority of people that don't look like you, that sometimes it can lead you to falsely believing or questioning whether or not you deserve to be in that space. And so this topic matters because we all need to find joy at work because we spend so much time at work that instead of surviving the work week, and waking up on Sunday morning and having the Sunday blues, already dreading Monday and the remainder of the work week, that we all deserve to be able to thrive in the workplace. And so the reality is, there are a lot of common workplace challenges, as I mentioned. Feeling like you don't belong, code switching, which code switching is when you're in the professional workspace and you feel that we can't speak slang. We can't walk in and go, "Hey girl, what's up? Like, what's going on? Good morning." It's a language that we have. And so with the appearance of social media being so heavy in TikTok and Instagram and all these social media platforms, that have provided the ability for the Black culture to be spread throughout the world. So now that it's become more open outside of the Black culture, it is more common now to hear other people outside of the Black culture say, "Hey girl, what's up? What's going on?" Like the way that we speak. And so code switching, when we walk into the professional space, that we feel that we cannot speak a certain way because we have to be completely professional, but we have to be completely articulate, which we should. But we should also be able to loosen up a little bit and let our hair down and to be our authentic self. And oftentimes we're not able to do that for the fear of being judged or perceived incorrectly. And also facing lack of boundaries of having an interaction with someone who is not Black, who is questioning you about your hair, about assumptions about what you may eat, assumptions about the music that you may listen to, or the things that you decide to watch. And so in the workplace, there are many stressors that Black people face. And Black people are more exposed to stressors in general than whites. We have a high mortality rate in comparison to whites. We have higher heart disease, higher cases of stroke, and higher cases in some cancers, more than whites. But here's the interesting thing is studies showed in 2022 that post-COVID, that depression and anxiety is actually diagnosed less in Blacks than whites, which is a paradox, right? It's like, if that is the case, if we face so many different stressors and we have so many higher risks in regards to our physical wellness, then how is it that mentally and emotionally we have less diagnosis of depression and anxiety? And so this study in 2022 looked at this paradox that it seemed very contradicting. And so this study looked into how is it that if Black people are exposed to more stressors, that they don't have as much depression and anxiety. And so there is various exposures that Black people have more than whites. We have different exposures in regards to stressors, and our stressors can be financial stressors, race stressors. In addition to, we have different access to resources. And those resources are social resources such as church, family, friends, and we tend to look on to our family, our friends, and our church, even if we're not necessarily sharing our dialogue about what exactly is stressing us out or what exactly is giving us anxiety. We find so much comfort in knowing that we have that resource of having those people there with us in our space and next to us. Black people are also more vulnerable to stressors. And so the fact of the matter is, as crazy as this sounds, we become so accustomed to those stressors that it's almost as though we get used to it. And how often is it that because of that, we have people say, "Wow, you're so strong. Wow, you're so resilient. Wow, you're so tough. Like you're able to just go through all that and like you're still standing and you're still confident." But the fact of the matter is it's exhausting. It's very tiring. And yes, that is where resilience comes from, right? Resilience comes from challenges, but there are certain challenges that as Black people or as people in general that we shouldn't have to continue to go through. And so therefore it's important to have this type of dialogue to be able to bring awareness to those outside of us. And then lastly, the efficacy of the resources that we do have. And when I explained what the resources were in regards to community, family, and church, we as Black people have so much pride and racial identity that we can see each other and not know each other. And it's an instant sisterhood, like a hey, sis, hey, girl. We identify with that and we have a sense of feeling at home. So when you are that one Black person in the workplace, and you happen to see the other Black person, you look at each other, it's this nonverbal communication, this nonverbal welcoming, and it's this way that we're able to identify with each other, and it's called racial identity. And that allows us to be able to feel less stress, even though the stress is still there, but it's less stress. It's a sense of comfort. And so because of all these different things, this is why African Americans are less likely to be diagnosed with depression and anxiety, regardless of all these challenges that we continue to face. And so we're going to talk about the power of coaching and stress management in this workplace of dealing with navigating these workplace challenges. And so as a coach, it is up to me to help you decide how you're going to change your mindset. How are you going to look at this situation? Is it even possible to look at this situation differently? And how to establish boundaries. What does that look like? Do I stay in this workplace if it's that bad? Do I continue going? Do I continue pushing? What's going to determine that decision? Emotional resilience. If I decide to stay in this workplace, what am I going to do to make sure that my mental and emotional health is going to be intact? And is it worth it? And then navigating racism at work. Should we navigate racism at work? Should we stay in these spaces that are beating us down or making us feel less than? Or do we sit and we push through? And so as a coach, this is the question that I ask myself from my own personal and professional experience, and these are the questions that I ask you. So if we are going to discuss a mindset shift, we want to be able to shift our mindset because we want to be free and we want to be able to be confident. But how are we confident when we're in a workspace that may be beating us down, that may not be treating us in a way that we should be treated, and that is not uplifting us? And so if we have to do a mindset shift, one of them is to say to yourself, well, their racism or their way of treating me is a reflection of them. It is not me. And the action that you can take is to say, I belong here. I am highly capable. This is reminding yourself of your why. Why am I here? Just a personal story of myself, of having been in a workspace, of being mistreated and dealing with workplace incivility. I had to separate their identity from my own personal self. Because no matter how much education, no matter how much experience that you have, if you're being mistreated enough, if you're around that enough, you become a product of your environment. And it can begin to chip away at your self-belief. And so I've been in that position and I've had to tell myself, you know what? This is not me, it's them. This is who I am prior to me coming here. I have the experience. I have the experience to back me up um, to be able to be assertive, to be able to make clinical decisions, to be able to lead. So regardless of how they're treating me, it's really about how they feel about themselves and it's separate from me. and that they don't get to define my worth. And so also another mindset shift is reframing racist interactions strategically. As much as I know we want to go back and forth and argue with someone with how they're treating us, especially because it's so very hurtful. We want to be strategic and we want to be professional. And so the mindset shift is instead of saying, oh, I'm really about to let her know, we will say, how can I use this situation and gain clarity or control? In other words, how do I respond rather than react to what this person is doing or saying to me? And so sometimes that looks like stepping back for a minute and not being in that moment. And it's okay if you have difficulty with holding your tongue. It's you need to be able to step back and pause, take a deep breath, pause. And it's okay if you have to go back, whether it's a couple hours later or whether if it's the next day, it's fine. So that you will be able to approach this person with a clear mind and and to have more control of yourself. And so you choose your response. The other way of being strategic is to document the different situations, write them down. You can make videos. I have made videos of myself as a video diary and just expressing situations that have happened just so that I have it on record. And for you to be able to look back if you ever decide that you're going to take it up to management, leadership, or HR. And also, the other most important way of being strategic is to redirect your energy instead of looking at the situation at hand, but to redirect that same energy as fuel and to say, what can I do to better myself? What goals can I establish? How can I make myself better? What can I do to possibly move out of this workplace, whether it's exiting completely or just transferring to a different department? And the other mindset shift is acknowledging that there are barriers within your organization. We know that they're there. We know that it happens, but we will not be helpless and we will not allow those situations to keep us all the way down where we cannot progress. And so a way to shift your mindset in this sense is to tell yourself this system wasn't built for me, but I am still striving. I am still taking care of myself emotionally. That's the first thing that you need to do in order to strive, in order to be able to look clearly at your goals, at your career path, is to be able to take care of yourself emotionally so that you can strive and create your own experience, make that system work for you. And also, the other way to take action and redirect this energy is to turn that anger, because it does become anger. When you're mistreated, you end up asking yourself, what did I do to deserve that? And when you realize that you did nothing to deserve that and you feel that anger, the way to take that anger and direct it is to become that change agent. And that looks like being an advocate for yourself. It looks like being an advocate for others. And it looks like seeking mentorship. Sometimes it takes, and I've done this where I have worked in a workspace that was just so very toxic. And I decided that I was going to stay within that workspace because that workspace was able to provide me with every single important thing that I needed in my life at that time, which included benefits on so many different levels, the pay, the schedule, every box was checked off. But the one thing that was not checked off was the reciprocal relationship, loyalty, kindness, and workplace joy that I was looking for. That box was left unchecked. And although that's one box, it seems like nothing. All that box was everything. Why? Because that's one of my major values is joy at work. How funny is that, right? And so because everything else at that time was so important, I said to myself, I'm not going to let these people run me out of here. So if this is the decision that I'm making, if I just sit here and stay and allow them to just keep beating me down and I'm doing nothing, then I'm going to wither away and I'm going to be depressed and none of this is going to be worth it. And so I said, if I'm going to put up with this, then I'm going to find a way to make it better for me and I'm going to create my own experience. And so that looked like me joining committees. I mean, you name it. I joined almost every single committee as possible so that I could always have a meeting to go to. Oh, I have to go to a meeting. Oh, I have to go to a meeting because it was my way of getting out of the department. But the great thing about that is that I met some wonderful people that I was able to network with. I'm able to seek mentorship with, and that have provided me with great examples, which is what has led me to where I am today to be able to establish goals and really just go for them because I met some wonderful people by seeking mentorship and seeking networking connects and allies. Those people become your go-to, and not in a sense of just venting and complaining about work, but actually having growth conversations about growth, especially if these are people who are not in the same profession as you. They work in different departments doing different things. And so they're able to shed light and show you different opportunities, different things that exist within your organization. And so that will help you to push through as well. Boundaries. Boundaries is that word that we hear all the time. Oh, just set boundaries. Oh, just set boundaries. It's true. But if you're the kind of person who is not accustomed to establishing boundaries all the time, it's extremely difficult. You're not going to go from never establishing boundaries and being a yes person to suddenly saying, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. With with learning how to establish boundaries comes this immense sense of guilt, guilt and sometimes shame of thinking like, oh, I feel bad that I had to. I feel bad that I had to. But I'll never forget, most recently, a coach that I met, and it was very profound, where she asked me, she said, when you do not establish boundaries and you say yes to things that you really mean no, when you say yes, what are you saying no to? And that stuck with me. And it completely changed my trajectory at work and how I interact with people, and learning the importance of when you say yes, that you really mean yes. And when you say no, you really mean no. And when that guilt or shame kicks in, because it will, that's when you have to remind yourself of your why. Why did I originally feel that I should have, I wanted to say yes anyway? And remember the importance of your why. And that's what's going to allow you to continue to do it repeatedly until it becomes your norm. And so the purpose of learning how to establish boundaries within the workplace is to protect your energy and to limit how much you feel that you have to prove your worth. So when you're in those situations where someone is saying something, for example, that doctor that asked me, oh, let me ask you, why is it that Black people, it's exhausting to have to be in a position where you're being singled out, you're being completely misunderstood, and instead of me allowing that situation to bog me down and for me to have to feel that I have to answer, my response is, I don't have to answer your question. Like, you really need to think about what you're asking me. I don't represent all Black people. There's different kinds of Black people. And you stay quiet, you let them hold that awkward silence, and then you move on. And you have to learn when to engage or disengage. That's something that I've had to learn myself, because you don't have to show up for every fight. You just don't. It's just not worth it. Oftentimes, people say things because, one, they really truly don't know. If I get the notion that someone says something or asks me something and they genuinely don't know, most of the time I will take the time to educate them and say, hey, like, this is the reason why, this is why we do this, but be careful. You can't say this, you can't say that. I will take the time to educate them. And you can also feel when a person is really trying to poke you. They're really trying to antagonize you. And in those situations, it's best to not engage. That's when you disengage. That's when you turn off. That's when you ignore, and you allow that person to sit with what they're trying to put out. They can just sit with it. And then you're able to keep your peace. And working in toxic workplaces where we're dealing with implicit bias and workplace incivility and microaggressions is have an exit strategy. That exit strategy, that can look like an exit strategy from a conversation, where if the conversation is turning in a direction that you don't like, you don't even have to respond. You can slowly go, oh my goodness, my lunch is about to be over, or oh my goodness, my mother's calling me. Anything to just be able to step away and ignore, turn off, or exit strategy could mean that knowing when it's time to leave that job, knowing when, like I said before, where all my boxes were checked except that one, how heavy is that one box that's left unchecked? How much is that one box that's left unchecked impacting my mental and emotional health? How much is that affecting my personal life, my family life, my relationships, and all the areas of my wellness? And that's when you really need to know that it's time to go. Have an exit strategy, know what that looks like, and creating steps on how to be able to get there, and knowing when to walk away and how to maintain your well being. Emotional resilience and navigating racism at work. Like I mentioned earlier, resilience comes from challenges. Like you learn to become resilient based on the challenges that you face. And so the more challenges you face, the more resilient you become. And it's funny that that's how it works, but unfortunately that's just how it works. But again, it's heavy and it can be very hard. And there is such thing as toxic resilience, where you have a belief that this is the norm and this is something that we all just have to go through because we're minorities within the workspace, when that's actually false. Those types of behaviors are completely unnecessary, they are unfair, and it's not something that we need to tolerate. And so when we are faced in those positions, we do have to learn how to gain the emotional resilience. We have to be able to acknowledge the toll that it's taking on us at work. How is it showing up in our lives, in our personal lives, our relationships, the way that we're eating, our physical health? Are we suffering from pain? It could be back pain, knee pain. It could be that your numbers, your labs are changing. Um, and if we see that there are changes within our bodies, there's a possibility that this could be related to the emotional toll that work is taking on our bodies, that we're internalizing them, right? And so, like I stated before, of seeing how African Americans suffer from chronic diseases more often than whites, this is even worse when you face this on a constant basis at work. So it is important for us to develop a strategic response plan on how we can be emotionally well in these workplaces if we cannot immediately leave or have or exit the, whether it's the conversation or your workplace. How do we do that? What does it look like to be able to regulate yourself emotionally when you're at work? It could look like getting to work earlier than usual, so that you're not on fight or flight, where you park your car, you jump out the car, you go into your workspace. You can actually get to work a little bit earlier so that you can give yourself, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even 20 minutes. I've done 30 minutes where I've gotten to work 30 minutes early just so I can have some quiet time, drink my coffee, listen to whatever music I want to listen to, or a podcast, anything that relaxes me, so that I'm already armed when I walk into the workspace, as opposed to walking in feeling depleted. So that I know that when I'm gonna walk into the workplace, that I will be facing some challenges, but I won't come in there depleted. I'll come in there feeling full. Um, Also, emotional regulation at work looks like taking walks during your break time, standing up away from your desk, taking a walk, looking at a different scenery from the place that is bringing you all that angst, but changing your scenery and bringing you to a different space to reset so that you're able to go back to your workspace. And also, another thing with emotional resilience is being able to be that advocate, as I mentioned before, and being the change agent, but doing so without burning out. And that looks like if you find that you're constantly advocating for yourself, you're constantly advocating for other people, but things aren't changing and they are either not changing or they're getting worse, then that's also a cue for you to be able to create your exit strategy. And so creating your personal resistance plan, what does that look like? In order to create your personal resistance plan to go into your workspace and say, you know what, this place can be very challenging for me, but this is what I'm going to do to make it better, is step one, define your vision for joy and balance. If you have to imagine what joy at work looks and feels like to you, write that down. What does that look like? What do you need? And in order to really understand what your vision for joy and balance is discovering what your values are. What are the top four things that are deal breakers for you that you have to have within your workspace? And does that align with where you work? Step number two is identifying the stressors. What is it at work that stresses you out? Is it the comments that people say, the microaggressions? Is it the way that you're treated outright, where people are gossiping? You walking into conversations where people are talking about you, or that you're being left out of planning of if there's certain events that are going on, but you're being left out. If you're being left out on the plan for the department, like a work assignment, and you're not being clued in so that it looks as though you are unprepared. Identify those stressors. And once you identify what your stressors are, look to see if you can find solutions that you can have control of for yourself. And what does that look like? Step number three is setting boundaries to protect your peace. As I stated before, boundaries is not something that you learn how to do overnight. That is something that you learn to do over time. And if you're able to identify what your stresses are, what are the things that bother you so much? What boundaries, what can you say in those situations that can allow you to feel that you are in control of yourself? What can you establish? And that's how you can figure out what boundaries to establish to protect your peace, and do it one by one. If you try to establish boundaries around every single thing, it may feel very overwhelming. So start with the highest stressor that you have. Start with that and then work your way through. Fourth, which is my ultimate favorite, is committing to daily self-care and recovery. When we're stressed out, it is very easy for us to just completely let go and not do anything at all because we feel so bogged down. And that doesn't help you at all. What actually arms you is the ability to be well and knowing what your 8 levels of wellness are. And within those 8 levels of wellness, knowing where you need to be nurtured. And that can change on a day-to-day or a month-to-month. So if you're finding that your financial wellness is out of whack, you need a new budget, you find that you may be spending a little too much, that you're still trying to recoup for the holidays, then let that be your focus on how to make it better. Find some ways to make it better. And when you start nurturing that, you begin to feel good. The same goes with your physical wellness. If you're finding that you're not exercising as much as you used to, establish a plan to work out, even if it's 2 days per week, 30 minutes, and then work your way through. And you'll find that when you begin to take care of yourself, you begin to take care of your wellness and the areas in your life that are lacking, when you begin to nurture those areas, it gives you this sense of pride, it gives you a sense of confidence, and it feels absolutely amazing. So that when you walk into workspaces or environments where people aren't treating you properly, it allows you that armor to say, wait a minute, no, I'm not standing for this. Why? Because you're taking care of yourself. You know that your baseline is that you're accustomed to getting treated well by yourself. And so therefore it is easier to not allow other people to treat you a certain way. It becomes easier for you to recognize these environments that are not good for you and to have the ability to create and stick to the exit strategy. And it also helps with your recovery and your resilience, positive resilience, and being able to say, you know what? Yes, I have been able to push through. Yes, I have been able to be tough in this situation. Yes, I have been able to be assertive, but you know what? I've had enough. And that's where the recovery is, of knowing when you've had enough and when it's time to exit. And then the also most important as well, and also my other favorite is building your support system. As I stated before, working in a toxic work environment, the support system is what pulled me through and what allowed me to maintain my status as a worker that particular place because I had other people that I was able to tap into, that I would meet during work hours, and some of them I would meet after work hours. And it just made things feel better. And again, there's so much strength in community. So it is so important to find people who are on similar path as you or who are like-minded like you, or who also have the same heart as you. Sometimes, you guys are just both caring people, but you do two totally different things, but that you have that commonality and community, just like how I stated with racial identity. It's a sense of comfort. And so I thank you all for taking the time to join me on this webinar. And I hope that you guys were able to take away some tools and to find some relation or awareness to the information that I have shared. There is a QR code there. You can go ahead and scan it. And that's just my contact information for you to contact me. And I do have a sample plan, a resilience plan, if you would like you can sign up for your email and I can email them to you if you would like. I thank you all. I'll give you a few seconds to go ahead and scan if you would like.
Yeah, Darlene, thank you so much. You're welcome to leave your QR code up there while we talk a little more, if you'd like, so they
Okay,
can run through
sure.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Karen Avino said, great presentation, Darlene.
Thank you. Hi, Karen.
And somebody else said, I really liked your thought on a shift in mindset, that it is their problem, not yours. That is a great
Yes.
strategy when coaching
Yeah.
on many difficult situations.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a tough one too.
yeah. And it says, ask a reflective question to the person. What is it that you can control over the situation? If nothing, then
Mhm.
let it go and set your attention and action on what you can control. Thank you.
Yes,
And
there's actually a lot of power in reversing question. Um, uh, because when you're in those situations so often, like you feel like your back is against the wall. And I'll never forget when someone asked me, they said, well, how come I can't use the N word? And my response was, well, why would you want to use the N word? And there's that, I love the awkward pause where the person's kind of sitting and you go, carry on. You just have to shift it. It takes a lot of practice to do, but you do have to shift that energy back.
awesome. And Natasha said, great presentation. Thank you so much for this information. And I did want to ask you, so how can like white professionals, white nurses, or individuals from other racial backgrounds become effective allies in supporting Black colleagues in managing stress and creating a more inclusive, joyful workplace?
I love that question because I've had people ask me that before. And for me, I think because of being in those situations, of being the only Black person and being asked those questions, that it's okay if, for example, if you and I were in that room and you spoke up for me and said to the surgeon, hey, you shouldn't X, Y, and Z, it comes out differently and it gives us that feeling of, okay, I'm not alone in this situation. Like someone understands me, even if they're not the same color as me, or they may not fully 100% understand how I feel in this moment, but they have a sense of that this situation isn't right.
Mhm.
So being what they call an active participant of being able to jump in and speak up on behalf and not and basically using your privilege and using your opportunities to back us up.
Yes, and not be scared to speak up and say,
Yeah.
that's great. Is there any resources like books, podcasts, or coaching programs that you recommend for Black professionals to prioritize their well-being to help them with that journey?
Well, it's funny that you asked me. I just started reading this book. I wish I had it next to me. I can't remember the name of the author, but the title of the book is called Rest is Resistant.
Okay.
And so basically what it's about is pretty much in reference to what I stated earlier about the superwoman syndrome. And as African American women, we always have the tendency to take on everything. We not only take on our own challenges, but we take on everyone else's that's associated with us. And so this book talks about not taking on all those challenges, but in the workspace and not wearing that cape proudly, but finding that when we actually take time to rest, that's where our power and our creativity and everything truly comes from, and that it's okay for us to rest, and we shouldn't feel guilty because we also would suffer from guilt from taking a step back or pausing. So it's called Rest is Resistant. So I just started reading it. So if anyone wants to grab that book, we can read it together.
And it looks like Janice in the chat has put a little link in there. Rest is
Oh, did she?
resistance.
Yes.
Free yourself from grind
Janice
culture
knows that book.
life. And Phyllis said, great presentation. This is the first time I've heard of toxic resilience. So that's
Yes.
um
There's toxic resilience, positive resilience. Yes.
and how about what are some ways? I know you're currently in your MSN program. What are some
Yes.
ways that organizations can create a more supportive and psychologically safe work environment?
You mean in general or specifically for Black professionals?
Um, well,
I
we'll talk
guess
about Black professionals. Yeah,
Black professionals.
sure.
Uh, that one is interesting because I've worked in a place where they really promote like DEI, right? Their inclusivity, and they have the right idea.
Mhm,
Um, it's very tricky because I think oftentimes in those positions, they're led by people who aren't really sure. And so it looks like celebrating holidays and things like that, which is great.
mhm,
But we need to have more support when it comes to opportunities for growth, professional development, seeing more faces of us in leadership, seeing the diversity within leadership, like from the top. And when I say this, I'm speaking specifically in hospital organizations
mhm,
that as people of color, it helps to be able to see that those that are in the executive suite, that there are some that represent different nationalities as opposed to the same that you usually see older white women. I think that for those who are looking to grow professionally, it gives them that hope, right? It gives them the encouragement, and it also gives them the inspiration that if they didn't think to do that before, but that's seeing that maybe because the CNO is the African American woman or woman of color, that you say, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen that before. Let me look into how to get there." And then also seeing the representation within nursing schools. We definitely need more educators of color so that the students are able to see that as a representation as well.
yes, that's great. And speaking of inspiration, I just wanted to thank you for sharing all your personal stories and weaving them in throughout your presentation, because I am just confident that you have made someone has related to you in this presentation and you made them feel less alone in their journey. So I just wanted to thank you for
Thank you too. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope that if anyone is navigating these challenges, or even if there are people who are watching who are not people of color, but the fact that you're here to watch, the fact that you're trying to be aware is definitely a step in being able to form that allies with us. So thank you
Yeah.
too, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Yes, I want to say thank you on behalf of everybody listening. Thank you for your insightful and really empowering presentation. You gave such great, valuable tools and, let everybody have a deeper understanding about how Black nurses can support themselves and each other
Yeah.
and how, we're all in this together. So, um, I want to thank you and
Thank you.
why don't you let everybody know how they can connect with you, maybe social media or
Yes, sure. So my email is darlene@belviewellness.com. Website is www.belviewellness.com. And then I am on LinkedIn as Darlene Bell. And lastly is Instagram. It's Belvie underscore integrative underscore wellness. But all that is on the QR code. You'll be able to contact me. And if you go to my website, I actually release a weekly blog every Monday morning at 4 a.m. You get it in your inbox, and they're always wellness articles that pertain to the different levels of wellness, and they usually discuss wellness in the workplace.
fabulous. And Marjorie said great information. Thank you.
Hi, Marjorie.
So
I
everybody,
also provide workshops. If anyone needs workshops, a wellness workshop in their workplace, contact me. I will do it. I absolutely love it. They usually run about 2 hours, and it's the same. I discuss how to thrive and build resilience within the workspace. And I do it for leadership, for all healthcare workers, as well as new grad nurses as well. How to survive within your first year.
yes, that's so important. And also, thank you for reminding us that joy is something we can all like really intentionally cultivate.
Yes.
All the tools that you said, the self-care, the boundaries, the
Yes.
finding your community, advocacy, and all of that. So thank you. And thank you for all of our listeners too for taking the time to come on tonight.
Yes. Thank you, listeners.
Yay! All right. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great night. And I
You too,
hope to see
Carly.
you again soon.
Bye-bye.